I feel like there's only one kind of project in the world, right? And that's the kind of project that you conceptualize it, and you think it's going to be something very simple, and you do your best to keep it simple, and then it's something that balloons into your entire weekend, you know? And that's what this is. This is a video about coding. And I know that if you're on this channel, you might be expecting a different kind of content here, but not talking about audio editing today. We're talking about coding. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Jeff Entman, and in my regular life, I am not a coder, but we're going to be talking about the programming language Python today, because it's something I've been learning here for the last couple months, and I'm ready to share something, and I want to show you how I got there. So this is going to be a beginner-ish tutorial, something that you should be able to understand, even if you've never looked at code before. We're going to be talking about the language Python. What I'm going to be showing you in this video is how to use some very simple code that I wrote, and hopefully encourage you to go in here and fiddle with it yourself so that you can, I don't know, change it around and make it do what you want to do. This is going to be a pretty informal tutorial, if you will. I have written no notes, which is not my normal style. So we're just gonna kind of do this ad hoc. All right, let's look at the code just really quick. I want to show you what it does first. The way it works is that if we set it all up right, you should be able to run this and get an output with the name of your next hit single and the band that you'll be in when you make it. So here we are. We're doing the inputs, and we've done that successfully. And your band name is called Novelty Mystique, and the song is called Roof Mythology. All right, let's do it one more time. Let's generate another one. Let's see what we get this time. Oh, your your song is called Bear Turpitude, and it's by Bear Curse. Let's do one more. I think this is highly entertaining, as you can tell. All right, we're gonna run the inputs. Somatosensory Alcatraz by Millennial Goose. This is incredibly silly, of course. This serves no actual purpose unless you are trying to name a band. But it kind of goes through some of the very basic elements of Python, and I want to show you exactly what's going on behind the scenes here, so we get this fun output. Now, before we hop into that, I just want to really quickly do some self-promotion, which is that, again, I'm not normally a coder. I have no training in this. I've just kind of been poking around for the last couple months here. Normally what I do is I make a podcast called Here Be Monsters, and it's a strange podcast. I've been doing it since 2012. And it's about fear and the unknown and things that are beautiful and hard to quantify. So it's called Here Be Monsters, and just put out an episode about how big the universe is and how sad that is. Did an episode about dumpster diving here recently. That's me wearing a shirt. So yeah, that's what I do normally. And this video, I initially conceived it for use by the patrons that support the show. And I was like, what can I give them that's something funny? I was like, I'll make them a band name generator sort of thing. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So if you want to follow along with this, by the way, there's a link down in the video description, but also you can just type in bit.ly/bandgen1. Again, might just be easier to click on it in the description. But I'll just kind of walk you through what you'll expect to see here. So when you go here, we're using something silly. It's called Binder. And this lets us pull from a GitHub repository. And that might mean absolutely nothing to you, but this is just the best way I figured things out. That's actually analogous to everything that's going to be in this video, which is that I'm just figuring things out for the first time. I'm probably doing some stuff in kind of silly ways. And so if you actually have more experience than me with the code, please do feel free to just kind of leave a comment of you could improve this by doing X, or you could improve this by doing Y. Again, I'm a beginner, so I'm just kind of showing what I figured out by some, I think what they call hack and slash coding. So what you need to know about this, though, is this is what's running what's called a Jupyter notebook. And Jupyter is this really cool piece of software that lets you kind of experiment with code in a really nice way, where if you mess up one little thing, it doesn't crash your whole program. It just kind of is like, hey, there's something wrong with what you wrote. You can go work on other stuff if you want. You can run things in isolation in a way that you can't with kind of some of the other ways that people code Python. So I really like using Jupyter. And so we're doing this kind of 3-step process where we're pulling a Jupyter notebook off of GitHub, and into this thing called binder. But it all works. And you can go in here and change things around, and it won't mess up anything on my end. It won't like overwrite anything. You can just mess around with this stuff and download it later if you want. So yeah, let's look at how this works. So I've left some little notes here that hopefully help you out. But the way that Jupyter works is that you click on a cell of code and then you click run up here. And so once we run that, a little number should pop up here, and that means that it successfully ran. And so the first thing I've done here is I've imported two things. So all we're really doing here is we're taking some random words and we're smashing them together. In the output stage of this, there is a little bit of delays that I've manually added in there to make it kind of feel like it's working a little bit more. I mean, this stuff is like really easy math, so it really is happening fairly instantly. But when you add little delays into your program, it can make people feel like it's like doing something. You know what I mean? Maybe this is unethical or something. So we need two things. We need to be able to figure out how to make random numbers, and we need to be able to figure out how to count in seconds. So there's these two Python things called random and time. And we're just going to add those to our software here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to define those lists of words that things are pulling from. So this is just a list of silly words that I've been keeping. We've got anachronistic, future, setup, relatable, quiet, recumbent, moon. I think I got all the like dirty words out of here, but I'm not 100% sure. Also, it's like combining them together in funny ways. So if it gives you something perverse, please don't get too mad at me. But there's a bunch of them here. I think there's a couple hundred words here, maybe a couple repeats. I'm not sure, but it's gonna combine the two different lists of words, and you can of course go here and add whatever words you want. Yeah, so we might wind up with something called like socialist innovation, or grin nuns, or Canadian celibate. Like these are all things that could come out of here. You know what I mean? I didn't get all the dirty words out, apparently. I'm seeing some in here. Miscellaneous soup. That's a good band name. So this is just the two lists of words. We're saving these as variables. And a variable is just anything that changes. It varies, right? We're saving these two variables as these lists of words. So we have one variable called word1, and we have a second variable called word2. Now we're going to get into the kind of the hardest part of this, which is this concept called functions. And a function is just like anything. A function is anything that you're going to be doing a lot, right? So if you're just doing something simple, if you're saying what's 1 + 2, you just kind of write in what's 1 + 2, and it's like 3, right? And that's pretty simple. You wouldn't want to write a function for that. But when you have something that you're going to do a couple times or many times, you can save yourself a lot of code by just saying like, hey, we're doing this common thing. Let's just save ourselves some code here and make things simpler. So I made a simple function here that I've called name generator. And what this is going to do is it's going to make another new variable. And this one's going to be called first. And this will be the first word in our 2-word pairs, right? So the variable called first is just going to be a random word off of word 1, right? So remember, word 1 is up here. Word 1 is this list of words on the top line. Anachronistic, future, setup, relatable, quiet, recumbent. So it's going to say, let's take a random word, let's make a random choice off of word 1. And we'll save that as something called first. Okay? So then it's going to say, okay, let's make another variable called second. And let's go up here and take a random choice off of the variable called word 2. So this is vernacular, basic, wizard, mystique, mysticism, resplendence, germs, all these. And then we're going to make a third variable. And this third variable is going to be called both. And what both is going to be is it's going to be first. So first is right here. And remember, first is a random choice from word 1. And then we're going to convert it to uppercase by using this little function that's called .upper. And that just turns anything lowercase into all uppercase. And then we're going to add, you see just an addition symbol. We're going to add this space, which is in between these two quotation marks. It says just add a space. And then after we add the space, we'll add the variable second. And remember, second is just a random choice off of word 2. So vernacular, basic, this, all this and all that, right? And then we'll convert that to uppercase. And then we save that as the variable called both. And so this code right now doesn't do anything at all because we haven't run it yet. We're just saying, hey, this is a function that we're going to need at some later point in the code. But when we do run it, it's going to return both. It's going to give us back this variable both. And whatever, actually, this will make sense in a minute. Just remember we have this variable called both, and we'll need that later. So again, I've left some little notes in here, kind of notated with this pound sign here, hashtag for the young ones. Just remember that the functions don't actually do anything until you do something called calling them. And when you call it, you say, okay, we're ready to run this. And maybe here's some extra information you need to run this. Or maybe this runs just by itself. And name generator is one that just runs by itself. So we have a second function though, and this is the most confusing part of this by far. This involves like a little tiny bit of math, and we're going to use something called a parameter in here. We're making a second function now, and this one's called loading bar. And so if you remember when I ran this code the first time, it was like variegating inputs, which it doesn't mean anything, of course. And it like a little string of asterisks ran by. And then it was like, what was it? It was like crushing self-doubts or something like that. And the same little string of asterisks ran by. And that's how I did this. I just made a function called loading bar. And then it has this, it has what's called an argument, or excuse me, it has what's called a parameter here, and that's just duration. And duration is just the number of seconds it's going to take for this loading bar to happen. So as you're noticing, that's not a number. This is actually a variable here, essentially. It's something that we'll define later. Our first little variable in here, though, is called total length, and that's just how many asterisks do we want to print on the screen. So that's going to be 40. And then we're going to make an empty variable. And this is something that took me a little bit of time to get used to, is there's actually benefits in making totally empty variables sometime. And you'll see why here in just a second. So right now we have another variable that's called progress. And progress is completely blank. It's just two quotation marks with nothing in between them, which means it's just empty. But we have defined it, though. We have created this variable that we'll need in just a second. So this is the tricky part. And this is where this kind of gets past like the just like true like first day I'm learning Python sort of stuff. This is what's called a for loop, and for loops are really helpful because it's saying, hey, kind of like this function is doing as well. It's saying like, hey, here's something we need to do a bunch of times in a row. Let's do it kind of in a very compact way instead of writing something out a million times. You know, I could write code that says like print 1 asterisk, then print a second asterisk, and I could do that 40 times in a row with 40 lines of code. That's just really inefficient, right? So what we're going to do instead is we're just going to write that in the course of like 3 lines of code once you take out all my comments here. And what we're going to say is we're going to say for I, which is just a temporary variable, it's a throwaway variable, is just something that we'll use to iterate. That's what it stands for. You could write anything here. For I in the range of the total length. Right, so this is where the Pythonic like syntax gets a little bit silly, but it'll make sense in a minute. So for I in the range of the total length, I want you to do the following. So for some integer, for some iterator, right, in the range of the total length, what's the total length? Let's go up here a second, 40. So between 1 and 40, or 0 and 40, I can't ever remember. Between something and 40, I want you to do this 40 times, okay? So here's what we're going to do. 40 times we shall take the progress variable, look at it, see what's in there, and add an asterisk to it. So the first time this runs, it's going to be a single asterisk. The second time it runs, it's going to say, hey, there's an asterisk here, and we need to add an asterisk to it. Let's do that. And it will go through and repeat this 40 times. Similarly, it's going to 40 times, it's going to print out the variable progress. So we're going to do these in order, right? We'll print out the variable progress, and then we'll make sure we're printing that on the same time, on the same line as we did last time. This is kind of a funny little notation here, but that's what this is doing. So it's going to say, add the asterisk, and go ahead and print out whatever progress currently is on the same line as we did last time. And then, and this is where the little bit of math comes in, right? Is we're going to say, hey, computer, wait just a second, because it can do this almost instantly. This is like really simple math. It's going to say, hey, computer, can you like quote unquote sleep for a second? And sleeping is just when it's waiting. That's what it's called, when it's just waiting before it does the next step. And we're going to say, it took me 2 tries to get this right because I can never remember how division works. We're going to say, we're going to sleep for as many seconds as is the duration over the total length. So this is 40 in this case, because remember up here, total length equals 40. And then we have this silly thing called duration, right? And this is the argument, this is the parameter that we've passed in when we call this function. Let me show you here in more detail exactly what's happening. So I've left this little line of code here, and it's currently commented out, which means it won't run. Now, if I run this, what's going to happen is it's going to run through this, and it should take about 5 seconds to finish. So let's see. There go our asterisks. How nice is that? And we're done. So I could change this to 1 second. There it goes, and it's done in about 1 second. Or I could change it to, let's do it super slow. Let's do 25. Ooh, not 125. Let's do 25. And here you can see, it's going to take a little while. So again, what we're doing is we're taking this empty variable called progress, and then 40 times in a row, we're going to take and add an asterisk to progress, and then we're going to print progress out on the same line as we did last time. I can show you what this looks like if we don't do this. Actually, that's a good idea. And then we're going to wait for just a little moment, which is the total duration, which is 25 in this case, because again, we're passing it in through here with the parentheses. So 25 is our duration over 40. And that should take 40 seconds, that should take 25 seconds to complete. So let's do this a little bit faster this time. Let's do it over the course of 5 seconds. But here, I'm going to take out this little line and show you what this does. There we go. And we'll run this to update it. And then I'll run this. You can see now it's printing out on the same line every time, which is something we don't want for our progress bar. Well, you can make art this way if you wanted to. So let me just undo that. And we'll run it to update that. And now we should be printing out on the same line each time, which gives the illusion of this growing bar. Again, this is by far the most complex thing in this. So if you got a little bit lost there, don't worry too much. Okay, I'm going to comment this out again though, so that it doesn't run later. And then we'll run that. It's just 2 comments, and that's fine. So this is all the hard stuff. All the hard stuff is done now. It doesn't look like we've gotten much out of it. We don't know the name of our band yet, but we currently have our imports taken care of. We have 2 variables, each with the list of words that we want. And we've defined 2 functions. We have name generator and we have loading bar. And we'll use both of those in our final output. So what we need to do now is we need to actually make the names of our band and of our song. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new variable, and that variable is just going to be the result of name generator. Because what we did up here is we said, return this variable both. So again, we're taking a random choice from word list 1 and a random choice from word list 2. And then we're combining them together with both. And then both is the result of this function, this variable both. So we're saying now, where are we? Here we are. The result of this function, we're going to call band name. Okay, that's our new variable. And then we have another variable called song name that will also be the result of a second running of name generator. So we'll run it a second time with hopefully a different band name, although there's nothing preventing it from picking the same. That would be a pretty low chance though, based on the number of inputs we have. And then all we're going to do after we run those 2 functions is we're going to print out this little confirmation message that says name generation was successful. We won't see the name of the band and the song yet, but it will be done in the background. And you can see it ran pretty quick, and it says name generation was successful. So it looks like that code executed without any problems. I know that was a lot of build up, right? But it's now time to run this. So what I've done here is I've made a little nice little header for this. It says it's going to print out. It's going to say band gen, a highly good band name and song name generator. I've got my little copyright thing here. My name. This is version 1.0, and it's licensed under the MIT license, which is a very permissive license that gives anyone the permission to download it, modify it, even, copy it, change it, redistribute it, and use it for commercial purposes. It's a very permissive license. I kind of doubt anyone's going to do that, but I'm new to this and I want to start doing things with best practices. You know what I mean? And so then we just move on to our loading bars, right? So we have it print out variegating inputs, and then it's going to run loading bar for 2 seconds. And then we're going to print out crushing self-doubt. And it's going to do loading bar for 1.25 seconds. And once it's done both of those things, it will print out success. And so after that's done, we're just gonna have the computer wait for a second, because again, I think it kind of gives a better illusion of like the computer's thinking really hard if there's just like a little bit of pause, and it also gives the eye time to catch up as it moves down the page. And so then all we're gonna do is we're gonna print out 2 new lines. That's what this /n does. 2 new lines just to make a little bit of space. And then to provide even further space, I'm kind of printing off this line of dashes here. And then all we're gonna do is we're gonna print out the variable song name. Right? Remember, song name is, where is it? Song name is up here. This variable of running name generator. We're going to print out song name. We're going to print out the word by, and then we're going to print out the band name. And then we're going to make another line of dashes. And that's as hard as it is. So let's run this a couple more times and see what kind of great band and song names we come up with. Variegating inputs, crushing self-doubt. Emotional Pangolin by Clump Kinship. That one's pretty good, right? Let's, this time, again, I encourage you to play around with this. So you're not going to overwrite anything that I've done. What's something else we could have instead of crushing self-doubt? We could say, like defeating limitations. Limitations. Let's give it like a real good think on this. Let's change this to 3 seconds. Let's make our loading bars really long. Maybe, 4 seconds and 5 seconds, make people think that it's like really having to think hard. And then we could also add an exclamation point here, right? So let's do exclamation point, closed brackets. So song name, comma, by, comma, band name, comma, exclamation point. The reason why these, the song name and band name aren't in quotes is because if we put them in quotes, it would just literally print out song_name and band_name. When it's not in quotes, that means it's a variable name. So that's the reason for that. So I think we're ready to go. Let's run the name generation part of this again so we get a new band name. And let's do our output. So you can see it's taking longer this time. That's good. Defeating our limitations. Brain Splendor by Moral Apologist! Exclamation point. That's not bad. Let's do it one more time. I'm doing a control enter to run this cell without having to run up here, but same idea. Sometimes you can do the wait too long, though. I think we might be waiting too long. Viral Smell by Recreational Water. I feel like we can do better. Let's do one more. I just gotta do one more. Let's make these. Oh god. 0 second wait, please. I wonder if this will cause a divide by 0 error. Surprise Lazarus by Novelty Garden. I'll take that. I think Novelty Garden is the smooth jazz, like wedding band, cover band version of Soundgarden. You know what I mean? Or Savage Garden. You guys remember Savage Garden? Am I showing my age here? So anyways, this is BandGen, a kind of teaching tool that I've made here for, ostensibly for the patrons of Here Be Monsters, but I don't know, maybe you, internet citizen, have use for this. One other thing is that, again, this is on GitHub, which is, I don't know, I don't think I fully understand it yet, but it is a way of distributing files, essentially, in a really, really helpful format once you actually understand what it is. So you can see here, you can actually download this if you do use Jupyter, what's called a Jupyter notebook file. So that's right here. And you can also get it as just a straight Python file. So if you have Python installed on your computer itself, you can run this from the command line, which surprisingly works pretty well. It's slightly different version because the code that we used here just exits immediately when it's done. So there's slightly different version. I also don't think I took out all the dirty words on the Python version, but so you can you experiment with that at your own in your own time. And then it's also got the license file, which again is just this really simple thing that tells you what you're allowed to do with it, which includes, gosh, without restriction, including limitation, you can use it, copy it, modify it, merge it, publish it, distribute it, sub-license it, you can sell it if you want. I can't stop you. Yeah, MIT license, very permissive. So eat your heart out with BandGen. I hope you find it useful. So yeah, my name is Jeff Entman. I produce a podcast here, Be Monsters. Thanks for watching this, and happy coding. I hope you try it out. I hope you try it out sometime. It's kind of fun.